We are live with our UFC Whittaker versus the Ritter fight night. Now, you will find a mute stream on our channel because apparently I made five of my picks and I was absolutely muted. And I hope you guys can hear me now. If you can hear me, please do shout out in the chat. So let me know if you can hear me. But the mute mouse strikes with absolutely devastating timing. I mean, but yeah, shout out to everyone who is joining us on the stream live for this UFC The Ritter versus Whittaker prediction show. Look, let's just get straight into it. I've already made my picks. I just made my picks. You can see me without hearing me, making my picks on the other stream. But in the fight between Martin Buday and Marcus Buchicha, I've gone with Buchicha. Marcus Buchicha, the favorite, minus 300 favorite, to the plus 250 underdog of Buday. For me, the age doesn't really matter. They're both 33 and 35, the younger man being Buday. Reach fairly similar, height fairly similar, 6'4" to 6'3", the tall man being Buday. And in terms of the reach, we have a 3-inch reach advantage for Buday. But I've gone with Buchicha because I looked at who he's beaten coming from one championship. As much as he's a debutant in the UFC, he's a finishing specialist. He's a submission specialist. And I think he gets this fight over Stephen Nguyen. I've gone with Stephen Nguyen by TKO in the second round. Looking at it, he is a minus 400 favorite with Yahya at plus 305, fighting out the United Arab Emirates. The stats that stand out is that there's a 2-inch height advantage for Nguyen, and that's the only stat that really stands out, other than the fact that he's got a little bit more experience in the UFC, having come off 2 contender series. Not very active, but at least he's won in the UFC, whereas Muhammad Yahya in the UFC has lost twice in the last about 2 years. First one to Trevor Peek and the second one to Kaun Fernandez. Only last time he won was in the UAE Warriors. So I've given this fight to Nguyen. I think he gets it done in the second round by TKO. Then the next fight was Ibo Aslan versus Billy Elkanah. I've gone with Ibo Aslan. Can you guys hear me now? We are back. Oh, shout out Lane. Shout out Trip Vic, guys. Thank you so much. Yes, Lane. Those damn neighbors. Let's put this chat up. Those damn neighbors got me running. My entire stream was muted. Can you believe it? But moving right along. Thank you guys for joining me tonight. So Ibo Aslan versus Billy Elkanah. I'm going with Ibo Aslan, the last Ottoman. Having a look at Elkanah, for me, his experience isn't quite up to scratch. He's previously come from the PFL where he had a couple of wins, but once he got into the UFC, he lost his first fight to Bogdan Guskov. Guskov's a decent fighter, but I don't think Elkanah's got quite what it takes to win this fight against Ibo Aslan. Aslan's way more experienced in the UFC, coming off a loss, but it's against Ion Kutalaba, the Hulk, who's on a sudden resurgence and is suddenly winning fights and suddenly looking like a very dominant, dangerous fighter. So for him to have lost that one, I can understand it. He is the minus 280 favorite versus the plus 230 underdog of Elkanah. They're about the same age, 29 and 30, the younger man being Aslan. And where it comes to the reach, it's the exact same. The height is about the same, 6'3" and 6'2". So for me, the deciding factor is the experience of Aslan, and the activity. I mean, they're both 5 fights in the last 2.5 to 3 odd years. But I'm going Ibo Aslan by KO in that fight. Oh, just to give you guys some insight, for the first fight, Buchecha was the community favorite, the Tapology community favorite, by 78%. 78% of the community thinks he will win that fight. Then in the next fight, Nguyen, 89% of the community thinks he will win that fight against Muhammad Yahya. I just talked about, Ibo Aslan is an 89% community favorite on Tapology. Getting into the next fight, Amanda Ribas versus Tabitha Ritchie. I've gone with Tabitha Ritchie by decision. Amanda Ribas is way more experienced with a 12-6 record, whereas Baby Shark Tabitha Ritchie is 11-3. However, Baby Shark is the underdog at plus 170. In her last 5 fights, she's lost to Lupi Godinez and Xiaonan Yan, who we know is a former title contender. So losing to her is not something to. I guess I'd say you wouldn't look down on that loss because Xiaonan Yan is an amazing fighter. Whereas we have Ribas, who's also equally as experienced in the UFC, but she, in her last 5, has only won 2, having lost to Macy Barber, Rose Namajunas, the former champion, Thug Rose, and Mackenzie Dern, the crowd favorite. But as much as Ribas is the favorite, I've gone with Tabitha Ricci, Baby Shark. I think she's got the momentum right now. She's got the hunger. She's got what is needed, for me at least, to win by decision in this fight. They're about the same age, but I'm going to go with Baby Shark. And the Tapology community also is going with the underdog in this fight in Tabitha Ricci by 60%. They think she'll win. The plus 170 underdog, Tabitha Ricci, versus the minus 200 favorite in Amanda Ribas. Then the next fight was Damon Blackshear versus Davy Grant. I've gone with Damon Blackshear by decision in this fight. Looking at the stats, looking at the odds, I think the plus 275 of Grant is fairly accurate. He's 39 years old and he's a slightly shorter man with slightly less reach. He's got, 3 wins in his last 5, having lost to Adrian Yanez and Daniel Marcos, but coming off a win against Ramon Tavares. Blackshear is also 3 in his last 5, but on a 3-fight win streak, previously having lost to Mario Bautista, who we know is now climbing the bantamweight ranks with the wins that he's racking up, and Montel Jackson, which was an absolutely fantastic KO from Jackson. That was a year ago. In the last year, Blackshear has gone on to beat Cody Stanman, Cody Gibson, he beats the Codys, and Natalengi Alateng. For me, I think he does it by decision. I think Grant's experience will stop him from actually finishing this fight, but I don't see Davy Grant winning this fight. I've given this fight to Damon Blackshear, and the Tapology community agrees with an 84% win percentage for Blackshear in this fight. Now, this is where we were before I realized that I didn't have any sound. So, yay, let's go. Next fight is between Muslim Salikov and Carlos Leal. I'm better than doing this. Muslim Salikov, why? Back and watch any of Muslim Salikov's head kick KOs. This dude is an absolutely phenomenal fighter. I mean, every time I watch him fight, it's not the most entertaining, but he's got very, very, very powerful hands. He knows how to knock his opponents out. He's got very smart legs. He knows how to knock his opponents out with kicks. So I'm a big fan of Muslim Salikov. This fight in the welterweight division, let's look at the tail of the tape. We have Salikov coming in as underdog in this fight at plus 375. He's 41 years old. I think that's why. And we have Carlos Leal coming in at a minus 500 favorite. He's a 31-year-old fighter, the younger fighter being Leal, with a 2-inch reach advantage, and both guys are exactly the same height. Salikov fighting out of Russia, Leal fighting out of Brazil. Leal's record is 22-6. Salikov's record is 21-5. This is this could be a very fight. I think I tend to find that the fights that have these odds usually are the ones that are best to pick a dog from. The closer ones usually don't go that way, but in this fight, I'm happy with my decision of Salikov as the dog to win. The king of Kung Fu will Kung Fu the lion, I think. So I'm giving this fight to Muslim Salikov. I really like him. Age is catching up. Leal is 10 years younger than him, but I think his experience is what's going to get it done for him. Leal has been very active. It's 5 fights in the last 2 years, fighting out of UAE Warriors, PFL, LFA, and then 2 fights in the UFC, having beaten Alex Morono, which doesn't count, and Reinier Bakredinov, he lost to in his first fight in the UFC. Whereas Salikov, in his last 5 fights, has only lost to Randy Brown and Nicholas Dalby about 2 years ago, but he's beaten Andre Fialho, one of the few Portuguese fighters that was in the UFC, but he got cut, I think, after that loss. And then he's beaten Santiago Ponzinibbio and Kenan Song in the past year. Kenan Song he beat by spinning wheel kick. Go check that out. Decision win over Ponzinibbio. And then a spinning back kick again against Andre Fiaglio. You should check those two out. Phenomenal back kicks. And for that reason, kick him in the head. I'm going with Muslim Salikov. Let's see what anyone's saying in the chats. Nothing in the chats. Okay, let's keep going. Then the next fight on the card is Bryce Mitchell versus Said Nurmagomedov. Now, this fight's in the bantamweight division. Let's see the tail of the tape. Bantamweight. Interesting. Bryce Mitchell is in bantamweight now. Okay, having a look at it, Bryce Mitchell is 2 wins in his last 5 versus Said Nurmagomedov, 3 wins in his last 5, both coming off a loss. Mitchell is the minus 140 favorite with Nurmagomedov the plus 125 underdog. Bryce Mitchell coming in with a record of 17-3. His losses, the 3 in the last 2 years. Geez, what's happened to my words? In the last 2.5 years is when he's gotten all 3 of his losses. And we all remember these losses because they're all vicious. And he was on an absolute tear when he had these losses. First, he lost to Ilya Topuria, who was at that point 12-0, the current lightweight champion of the UFC. Then he lost to Josh Emmett. We all remember that one. And John Silver. We remember that choke too. Ninja choke. So Bryce has had a tough time recently, but he did beat Chrome Gracie, which doesn't count, and Dan Ige. 50K Ige. Whereas on the other side, Nurmagomedov lost to Vinicius Oliveira, but beat Muin Gafrov, lost to Jonathan Martinez, and beat Sadikov Wow. I'd love to hear Sterling say this name. Sadyukub Kakramanov. Sadyukub Kakramanov. And Douglas Silva de Andrade. Okay. Interesting. I was leaning towards Nurmagomedov, but if I look at the names that he's fought, the names that he's beat, there's not really much to go by. Let's see. Mitchell's the taller fighter by 2 inches. I think I'm going to go with the favorite in this fight. I think I'm going to go with Bryce Mitchell. I think he's learned a little bit from his last loss, actually from the last 2 years of 3 losses, because now he's going 1 for 1, 1 loss, 1 win, and right now he is primed for a win. So I'm going to go with Bryce Mitchell by decision in this fight. Oh my gosh. Typology community has it right down the middle, 50-50. 50% think that Mitchell is going to win. 50% think that Nurmagomedov is going to win. So that's very interesting. Very, very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing this fight. Let's see who gets it. Next on the card, Nikita Krylov versus Bogdan Guskov. We spoke about Bogdan Guskov earlier. He is the one who beat, who was it? Billy Elkana when he joined the UFC. Guskov in this fight fighting against Nikita Krylov. This fight in the light heavyweight division. Let's have a look at the tail of the tape. Krylov coming in with a record of 10-10. Guskov coming in with a record of 17-3. The more experienced fighter being Krylov. 5 fights in the last 3 years for Krylov. 5 fights in the last 2.5 years for Guskov. Guskov fighting out of Uzbekistan, and Krylov fighting out of Ukraine. Same age, 33 to 32. Guskov being the younger man. Height and reach are fairly identical, not much between them, but about an inch in reach in favor of Krylov. The minus 200 favorite is Krylov, plus 170. Underdog is Guskov. Now, let's see who Guskov has beaten in the last 5 years. He's lost to Volkan Oezdemir, but he's now on a 3-fight win streak, having beaten Zach Poga, Ryan Spann, and Billy Elkana. Okay. Whereas Krylov is on a 1-fight losing streak, but in the last 3.5 years, his 2 losses are to Paul Craig and Dominic Reyes, the returning Dominic Reyes, who's looking really good. He's also beaten Ryan Spann, Volkan Oezdemir, and Alexander Gustafsson. Very, very interesting here. The Minor versus the Sarovich. Hmm. Odds are in favor of Krylov. I'm going to go with. This is a tough one. It looks like the tough one. Experiences in the favor of Krylov. I like Guskov, the Anthony Smith, the new Anthony Smith, because if you look at them, they look exactly the same, just less the tattoos. But I'm going to go with Krylov. But I think it's by decision. I don't think he finishes Guskov, although this is a heavier weight class, and these weight classes tend to end in the finish. But I'm going to go with Nikita Krylov, the minor, in this fight. And, ooh, the typology community has gone with Guskov by 63%. They have 63% confidence that he will win this fight. That's making me think because this is one of the closer fights for me on the card. Not just because of the odds, but because we know exactly what Bogdan Guskov does. Although the age is the exact same, the Uzbeks are winning these days. I'm going to stick with Nikita Krylov. I like Bogdan Guskov. If you're looking for a good underdog, he is. But I'm going to stick with Nikita Krylov. Then the next fight on the card we have is between Asu Almabaya versus Jose Ocha. This fight in the flyweight division, 125 pounds. Let's have a look at the tail of the tape. Ocha fighting out of Peru, Almabayev fighting out of Kazakhstan. In the last 2 years, Almabayev has had 5 fights. In the last almost 4 years, Ocha has had 5 fights as well. So not as active. The more active man being Almabayev. Almabayev is on a 1 fight losing streak, having lost to Manal Kap. Although that fight was very interesting because Almabayev just kept running and running and running for Manal Kap in that fight. It was lots of leg work. He ran a 4 minute mile in that fight, or the 1 minute mile. And Ocha coming off a win against Cody Durden a month ago. I remember I had Cody in that fight, but Ocha did well. But he's recently in the last 5 fights lost to Lona Kavanagh, but also beat, who's here, Juscelino Pantoja and Jefferson Pereira. Minus 120 favorite in Almabayev, plus 100 underdog for Jose Ocha. So this is another close fight. The older man is Almabayev at 31, Ocha is 24 with an 8-1 record, whereas Almabayev is with a 23 record. Taller man is Ocha at 5'7", and he also enjoys a 2-inch reach advantage over Almabayev. I know he ran for Manel Cup in that last fight, but I think he's got a lot to offer, not just the UFC, but just as a talent. So I'm going to go with Asu Almabayev, but because of the weight class, I'm probably going to stick to decision win there. I don't think he finishes Ocha. I think Ocha manages to weather the storm. Yeah, I think Ocha manages to weather the storm and see it through. But the winner will be Almabayev. And the Tapology community has a 68% confidence that Almabayev will be the winner in this fight. On to the next card. Shara Magomedov versus Marc-Andre Barriault. Ooh, the pirate, Shara Magomedov. Look, before I even go there, I'm going with Magomedov. I see him finishing this fight in the first round. But you know what? I'm going to go maybe with a submission. And then he's going to say, oh, I was trying to show something different in my game. You know how they do it? So I'm going to go with Magomedov by submission without even looking at the tail of the tape. This fight in the middleweight division, 185 pounds. Let's look at the tail of the tape. Last year and 9 months, Magomedov has had 5 fights. The last 2 years, 1 month, Barriault has had his 5 fights. Barriault is coming off a win. Magomedov is coming off a loss. But Magomedov's record is 15-1, so that was his first loss, and it was a loss to Michael Venom Page. And we know who MVP is. MVP is an absolute killer, and he managed to take Magomedov all the way to decision and won on decision. That was not a bad win for Magomedov. It took him to deep waters, and now he knows better. Andre Barriault is coming off a win against Bruno Silva. But then previously, he had lost 3 in a row to Dustin Stolfus, Joe Pfeiffer, and Chris Curtis. Yeah, I'm sticking with it. Minus 635 favorite is Magomedov, and a plus 475 underdog is Barriault. Fighting out of Canada, 35 years old to 31, the younger man being with a 1 inch reach advantage for Barriault and a 1 inch height advantage for Magomedov. So I've already made my pick, 100% Shar. Let's see how the community finds it. The community sees it as a 93% confidence that Magomedov will win this fight. And of those 93%, 70% say it will be by KO. And I agree. Well, I didn't agree. I went with submission. But just because he wants to show something different in his game, because we all know how amazing a striker he is. But once he can show the versatility and win the fight in that area, I think he gets back to being on the path that he was on, which was pretty much straight for the title until he lost to MVP. Now the next fight in the co-main event of the night, the bantamweight division, is Petr Yan. Petr Yan is back. It's been a while since we've seen him fight, and he's coming up against Marcus McGee. Let's look at the tail tape. We've got No Mercy coming up against the Mechanic. Petr Yan is on an 18-5 record, whereas Marcus McGee is McGee is on a 10-1 record, 5 fights on the trot, whereas in the last 5, we know Yan has lost 3 of those. He's had 5 fights in the last 3 years, 3 months, whereas McGee's had 5 fights in the last 2 years, 6 months. McGee is on his 4th fight in the UFC, having beat Journey Newson, JP Baez, Gaston Bolanos, and Jonathan Martinez. Whereas we know Yan was a former title contender, having lost the title, or lost his opportunity to get a title against Aljamain Sterling, that knee to the head, infamous, and then he lost to Sean O'Malley, Merab Dvalishvili, and then came back now on a 2-fight win streak, having beaten Yang Song Yadong and Davison Figueiredo. So we see that Petr Yan has been fighting at the highest level for a long time, even though he's only 32, whereas McGee's only recently come in fighting at the highest level, and he's at the age of 35. 2-inch reach advantage for McGee. What else do I see that's relevant here? Nothing, pretty much. Look, I'm not even going to take any more time. I'm going with Petr Yan. I think he gets it done by KO, but in the 3rd round. I think McGee will be a very, very tough opponent, but he's just not going to have enough for Petr Yan's boxing right at the end. And I don't think the power of McGee is going to be able to catch Yan, because Yan is a very wily fighter. He's got great head movement, great footwork. He knows how to move around the cage. He knows how to work the cage. And I think that's going to be the difference between him and Marcus McGee. Tapology community agrees with a 91% confidence that Petr Yan will win. Most of them saying by decision. I went with the KO, but in the 3rd round. Let's see how that fight goes. And now for the main event of the evening. The fight between Robert the Reaper Whittaker and Reinier the Ritter. This fight in the middleweight division of the UFC. Let's have a look at the tail of the tape. Coming in with a 26-8 record is Whittaker, and a 20-2 record is the Ritter. One of the Ritter's most recent losses was to Anatoly Malkin. And if you don't know who that is, he is the former one championship heavyweight champion who lost his undefeated record when he lost the championship to Rug, who we talked about earlier in the show when I had no sound, so you guys wouldn't remember that. But we mentioned Rug because he beat someone else that's on this card. Now, Anatoly Malkin, that loss was 1.5 years ago, 1 year, 4 months. And then that's when he left one championship, the Ritter, to come towards the UFC. First started in UAE Warriors with 1 fight, and then came over to the UFC. And he's had 3 fights in the UFC so far. So 3 fights, 3 wins in the UFC. First, he beat Gerald Meerschaert. Then he beat Kevin Holland. And then that nasty knee to the body 2 months ago on Bo Nickel. Whereas Robert Whittaker has not had the best of time recently. Well, he hasn't had the best of time since he lost to Izzy, to be honest. when he lost that title fight to Israel Adesanya, he just hasn't been the same. But most recently, having lost to Khamzat Chimaev with a nasty face crank that broke all the teeth in his mouth, and in the last 5 years, he's also lost obviously to the champ, the middleweight champion, DDP Drickers, still knocks Duplessis. Both gentlemen are the same age, 4-inch height advantage in favor of the Ritter. Wow, 5-inch reach advantage in favor of the Ritter. The Ritter fighting out of the Netherlands is a plus 125 underdog, with the Reaper being a minus 145 favorite in this fight. For me, I think the Ritter is double champion from one. One's not the same type of championship as UFC, but once again, momentum, momentum, momentum. For me, it's all about the momentum. Right now, the Ritter has the momentum. He wins this fight and he can start calling for number one contenders. He can start calling for number one contender fight, essentially, depending on exactly who will be in the number one position after Drickers beats Khamzat. That's when we'll be able to see who he would need to fight in order to progress to actually fighting the champion, who I'm sure will still be DDP, Drickers Duplessis. So I'm going to go with Reinier de Ridder. Unfortunately, Bobby doesn't seem to have the best defense for submissions. I know he's probably practicing now to make sure that doesn't happen again like it did with Khamzat, but Reinier de Ridder is an absolute killer on the ground, absolute killer on the ground. When he gets a hold of you, it's not pretty. Even when he beat Bo Nickel with the knee, we were all expecting a submission, but that knee hit him right in the liver. Bo Nickel went down, and it was basically a walk-off KO. I think something similar to that happens again, but with a submission. So I'm going with Reinier de Ridder. I think he's just got too much championship, not just experience, but talent in terms of how he fights, his skill, and how he approaches the fights. Don't get me wrong, Robert Whittaker is great, but momentum, momentum, momentum. Robert does not have the momentum. He's had too many setbacks in the last 2.5 years, whereas the Ritter has been just plugging on, moving forward, those wins. So I'm going for Reinier, the Ritter in the fight. The main card, the main event fight is going the way of it. Now, let's have a quick recap before we end the show. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. I hope you have enjoyed the stream. If you are watching on playback, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe at HeadKickPod on all platforms. You know where to find us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Let's have a look at the picks. So in the first fight of the night at UFC Whittaker versus the Ritter, the Typology community has the fight between Buchecha and Buday at a 78% win confidence for Buchecha, and I've gone with Buchecha by submission in round one. Second fight of the night, Nguyen versus Yaya. The community has an 89% confidence that Stephen Nguyen will win this fight, and I have gone for Stephen Nguyen to win this fight by TKO in the second round. In the next fight of the night, we have Ibo Aslan versus Billy Elkanah. The Typology community has Aslan winning by 89% confidence. And I've gone with Ibo Aslan to win this fight by KO in the second round. Then the next fight of the night is Tabitha Baby Shark Richie versus Amanda Ribas. The community has 60% confidence that Ribas will win this fight. And I've gone with, sorry, not Ribas, apologies. Richie will win this fight. And I've gone with Tabitha Richie to win this fight by decision. Spot on with the community. That's what's likely to happen. Then the next fight, we have Damon Blackshear versus Davy Grant. The community has Damon Blackshear winning by 84% confidence. And I've gone with Damon Blackshear to win by decision. Then the next fight is Muslim Salikov versus Carlos Leal. The community has Leal winning by 85% confidence, but I've bucked that trend. I've gone with the underdog in this fight. I've gone with the head kick Kung Fu King in Muslim Salikov. But to win by decision, let's see, should I change that? Nah, I'm going to keep it there. He wins by decision. The age will just keep him from finishing that fight. Then in the next fight, it's Bryce Mitchell versus Said Nurmagomedov. The community has it right down the middle, 50-50 between Mitchell and Nurmagomedov. I've gone with Mitchell by decision. Then in the next fight, we have Nikita Krylov versus Bogdan Guskov. Community has Guskov winning with a 63% confidence rate over Nikita Krylov. And I've gone with Krylov, the underdog, to win by decision. Two big underdogs. Let's go. Then in the next fight, we have Asu Almabayev versus Jose Ocha. The Tapology community has Almabayev winning with a 68% confidence rate. I've gone with Almabayev winning by decision. Then in the next fight, it's Shara the Bullet Magomedov versus Mark Andre the Powerball Barrios. The Tapology community has Magomedov winning with a 93% confidence rating, and I've gone for Magomedov by submission in round 1. Submission, not his specialty, but I think he gets it done by submission. Then in the co-main event of the night, we've got Petr Yan versus Marcus McGee. Tapology community has Petr Yan winning with a 91% confidence ratio for him to win by decision, and I've gone for him to win, but by TKO in the third round. So Petr Yan TKO third round against Marcus McGee. And then the main event of the evening, we have Robert the Reaper Whittaker versus Reinier the Ritter RDR. Middleweight division fight we have here. And the community has it right smack down the middle. 50% the Ritter, 50% Whittaker. Whittaker by TKO decision, the Ritter by submission, and I have gone Reinier the Ritter RDR by submission in round 1 against Robert Whittaker. And that is a kick him in the head picks for the UFC Fight Night, Whittaker versus the Ritter. To everyone listening, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe at HeadKickPod on all platforms. You can find us on Wednesdays. We are on Dust Up Shakedown. We do prediction shows before every PFL Africa event. We do prediction shows before every EFC event here in South Africa. And of course, we do prediction shows before every single UFC event. You can also catch us later tonight on the prediction show for the Fight Week show, the Underdogs prediction show. I'm third in that competition. I was riding high 13 weeks in a row, number 1, and then let's see how these picks do on this coming fight card. So to everyone listening, as always, until next time, don't forget to kick him in the head.